What's up, guys? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to a new show. Welcome to a new show. Welcome to a new show. What's going on? New conversation. New conversation. Hello. How's everyone doing? Welcome. New week, new chat. I'm saying hello to you guys right now. Hey, hey, hey. What's going on? Okay. As I just posted in the chat, please use your key, which is your like button. Click the like button and say hello. Hello, Patricia. Thank you for being the first person to say hello to me. Again, those of you who are in the chat, please click that like button. That is your key to the conversation. The conversation is starting today. As every Monday, we're enjoying great chat. Some hard ones, some easy ones, but we are talking. Hello, everyone. Hello. Look, I don't want to delay the conversation. I like to jump right in, which is why I always tell you the show is at 6 o'clock every Monday. If we're not having a show, that means we're not having a show. And I'm hoping that you will go back and look at some shows that you did not watch. Don't forget, to click the like button. Make sure you're letting us know that you are here. We don't know you're here if you don't say hello, if you don't click like, if you don't share. And yes, I know many of you are tired of hearing that, but if you visit any other YouTube channel, you're going to hear it. Why? Because those individuals know how important it is to let their viewers know how important it is to be involved in the conversation. So please do us a favor and click the like button. Again, that is your key to the conversation. Also, click the share button and share it on your platforms. Why be selfish? Share this conversation. That helps the show grow, right? So this is every Monday, 6 p.m., and I will be telling you guys otherwise. Wow. So I noticed I'm seeing some people that I had sent the invite to. Sometimes people need reminders. So this is how you get the reminder. Please do me a favor. Click the notification bell. And then when the notification bell is clicked, click all notifications. That way you will be informed when I post a show or when I'm live. You won't miss it. Hello, Diane. It is nice to see you in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. This is what I mean. I see some things I did today that I don't normally do because I'm hoping that you will be a subscriber. That way I don't have to send you personal notifications, but I'll do whatever I need to do to grow the show. Okay. Without further delay, I want to jump into this conversation. Please post this is a QA question, Q&A conversation. So please do me a favor. By all means, post your questions, post your answers to any questions that may be asked in the chat. This is where I get to engage with you. Until my guests join the show live, I'm talking to you, my viewers. So I need you to talk back to me. Sometimes it's hard to type all this stuff on your phone and on your laptops and stuff like that, but you're smart. I'm sure you can figure it out. Okay, so look, I wanted to have a conversation with you guys. I think this conversation needs to be had because many of you, if not all of you, are parents. And by you being parents, I think this is a conversation that may raise some concerns for you. Okay, so today's conversation is about who should have the right to teach your children or children, for that matter, about the LGBTQ plus community, gender, and sex. I'm very curious of who do you believe is responsible to teach these topics to your children? As you may know, and you may have already, if not, you've heard or not heard, I'm going to bring it to your attention. There have been an ongoing debate with schools and parents as it relates to who should be teaching children about their gender, about the LGBTQ plus AI, if I'm saying it right, if I'm not, forgive me, community, and sex. I'm really curious about who you think is responsible. While you ponder that question, I want to read you something that you may not know. Okay. But this was posted in 2019. These states require schools to teach LGBTQ plus history. Um, in California, California became the first state to pass the law requiring schools to teach LGBTQ plus IA history in 2011. This state was followed by Colorado and New Jersey in 2019. So, as I'm reading to you, I'm letting you know that there are states that are getting permission. It's becoming law for them to teach your children, your nieces, your nephew, your grandchildren, just adolescents about the LGBTQ plus IA community. I want to kind of hold back my comment or my opinion about this. I do plan to have an expert from the community on this show. And then I also want to invite, and if you know someone who is bold enough to join this conversation, I would ask that you share this link with them. Tell them that I'm open to them joining the conversation with me as it relates to this topic so that they can talk with the experts or individuals from the community, as well as talk to the individuals from the community can hear how parents feel about this topic. I see people commenting there, and bear with me because I'm reading your comments while I'm talking to you, so I don't want to veer too much away. So I will be definitely getting to your comments as it relates to this topic. Hello, Jasmine. Nice to see you back. Oh, let's salute my girl Jasmine Cross for going to Africa on our behalf, serving her country. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for your service. It is much appreciated. Girl, what will we do without people like you? So thank you so much for being here. Okay, so I see a comment. So let me just look at that. While you ponder the question, who's responsible or who should be responsible to teach children about the LGBTQ plus community, gender, and sex? Jasmine says, I would say parents, but it's hard to teach a subject that we do not understand or have knowledge on. Therefore, I'm torn, okay? But the current climate deems that our children should be taught the subject. It is not taboo now as it was when I was raised. Okay. I can see where you're coming from. So yes, when you are of a particular age and not that old, we do know that the climate, as Jasmine referenced, and this space we're in, it was very much different. It was taboo across the line. You didn't really see too many people going out of their way to talk about this very topic. A lot of people were shunned and hidden in fear of losing their life, putting their loved ones at risk, losing their job. There were so many ramifications to coming out back then that individuals didn't come out. So the school systems for some point did not have to deal with this topic at hand. But now we're in a different time, and schools, as I just mentioned, are required to teach about these very topics. Okay, love seeing the comments here. Rob, good to see you posting. You said, I don't have an issue with schools teaching sex ed. I took that when I was in school, elementary school at that. Okay, so yes. Yes, sex ed was a little bit, yes, I see where you're coming from, Rob. So sex ed was taught in school, and it's a little bit more detailed now than I think when we were in school. Nonetheless, what is your thoughts about sex being taught in school as it relates to this topic of LGBTQ plus IA? Latifa, the parents. I think some things should be left up to parents. Okay. I see. So, And again, I want to just hold back a little bit about my views about this. Don't mean I'm not going to reference it, but I want to hold back a little bit. I want to hear from you, the viewers. I'm seeing some of the comments. I appreciate your feedbacks. And it seems that we are, as Jasmine stated, we're a little bit torn. But I want you to know that this topic is going to get heavier and heavier and heavier. And it's going to be a really big issue until we all can come to a consensus of who's responsible. Here's a question I want to ask you. What if parents are not teaching their children about this very topic? If parents are opting because, let's say, they disagree with the lifestyle of someone who is of the community. What if parents are just avoiding the topic altogether? What if it's a parent who has a child who is, by definition, considered to be part of the community, maybe not in it, but part of the community by way of how they live their life? What about that? What if the parent isn't teaching it? Do you think that schools stepping into this position of teaching children about the LGBTQ plus community and how to function in it, identify it, relate to it? What do you think? Of course, the girl got to put on her glasses. Okay, so iRob says it depends on how it's taught. iRob, give us a couple of definitions. Drop a couple of things that you would be opposed to the way it would be taught, opposed to the way you would be okay with it being taught. Okay. That is the biggest issue, that parents are not teaching children about the topic, a topic they see every day in life and in schools. Okay, yes. But what if they this is something they don't want to do? I'm seeing a new I'm s- well, let me first welcome Christopher Brown. Never saw that name before. Thank you so much, Christopher, for joining the conversation. Please, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. And then also, if someone in the comment invited you, please drop their name so we can thank them as well. But welcome. Yes, going back to Jasmine's comment, there are individuals, families who are not teaching their children about it, even if their child is not part of the community at all. Their child is a heterosexual boy, girl, and mom and dad or whomever the guardian is not teaching that. Do you believe that that individual is doing a disservice to that individual, that child? That's another question to ponder. Now, Christopher, you said, I'm with Miss Shabazz. I believe that it's the parent's responsibility. I have other views on the topic, but I'll hold out for a minute. Okay. Well, please do share. Thank you. So you agree with Miss Shabazz, Miss Latifa. Okay. Hello, Lakeisha. It's good to see you. Can't wait to catch up with you. Thank you for joining the conversation. In my opinion, it's the parents and guardians' choice when to introduce the subject. Same applies to drugs, sex, etc. Okay. But going back to Jasmine's a statement, what if parents are not teaching this? You have children growing up in a home, in an environment where that child is taught to ignore the very thing that is evident. They are attending school with little boys and girls who do not conduct themselves, act a certain way, live a certain way, whatever way you want to identify it, like that child does. And that child knows something's different about that kid. Are we doing a disservice to that child by not having the conversation at home? Come on. And this conversation is going to be happening a couple of times. I don't want to call it a whole series, but we're going to have this conversation because I stated earlier, I want to invite someone from the community. If you watch some previous shows as it relates to topics of LGBTQ plus community, Torrin Baskerville is a advocate and an individual from the community who's well versed in this subject as it relates to the community. But I do hope to have him on the show at some point to talk about what his views are as it relates to children being taught this very subject. What age range are we speaking about? Good question. So let's take a look at this here. I want you to, I don't know if you know, but this book here, The Gay ABCs, is being is in schools, libraries across the country. This book and many other books like this book is in your children's schools, libraries around the country. So if we're talking about this book here, The Gay ABCs, then we know when you're talking about ABCs, this is children's books. This is not a preteen. This is not a teenager or young adult. This is a kindergarten, if not earlier on, child book. And the question, thank you, Christopher, I think is a good question. You tell me, what age do you think is appropriate for a child to be taught about this very subject? Rob says, well, when I say kids, how old are we talking? Okay. You tell me, Rob, because as I just said, this book is in the schools. Miss Cross, I believe both parents and educators should research this subject to adequately educate our youth. If not, biased opinions would supersede the no. Very true. Okay. Lakeisha, I think that this is important to explain that in life we will encounter people with differences. I have had the conversation with both my children in an age. Yes. Thank you, Lakeisha, for sharing that. So you're teaching your children. I don't know if you would like to share the age of your children or what age they were when you started introducing this conversation to them. I don't want to put it out there, but I would tell you that you and I've had private conversations, and I was okay. I'm like, I'm trying to hold back my opinion. So let's just keep the conversation flowing. And then I will share with you. Rob, kids are curious creatures, so they're going to ask questions. Who is going to teach them tolerance, or who's going to teach them hate? Good statement, Rob. I addressed when my girls became inquisitive about the topic. Example, asking questions about attire, family dynamics. Why does so and so have two mommies? And yes, I remember that conversation, Miss Lakeisha. Thanks so much. Yes. And her girls were young, but your children are very smart and insightful. As Miss Cross children, so I know some of these families personally, so it's interesting. My youngest was in kindergarten. Check that. So Lakeisha just said her youngest child was in kindergarten. Her daughter was in kindergarten when this little girl, who's very bright, I must say, started to pay attention to something that was a little different. And she asked her mom, and her mom had that conversation with her. Okay. I have no idea what age is the best. I just asked my 7-year-old, does he know what it means to be gay? He said no, and I left the subject alone. Okay. And he's 7. Miss Latifa, I don't even want these teachers these days talking about sex ed the way they teach. These teachers are not all. Okay. Listen, these are very, you see how important this topic is. And just imagine, we're all sitting here now saying that some believe it's this, some believe it's that, not enough information. But this is what's happening. Let me just go over and just take a look at a family that many of us have heard of. So I want to talk about, I want to reference the Wade family. Dwayne Wade, Gabrielle Union Wade, and their daughter. And I'm going to be using the pronouns respectfully as it relates to how the individual wants to be identified. Do not jump to a conclusion that I am taking any position in this. And let me just pause for a second and say that the reason we don't have these conversations is because people jump to conclusion and don't leave a space to have the conversation. And that is from the secular to the religious sector. Many people just are saying, we're not talking about this. This is just, it's not right. It's wrong. And then we're left with no answers. And we're left with children who are confused, not about their gender. But let's go back to what Jasmine said. She asked her 7-year-old son, and he did not know. He doesn't know. So she left the subject alone. So this little boy doesn't know what that means. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm asking you. I'm not weighing on it because I'm curious about what you think. But I want you to also consider also this family here, the Wade family, because when we talk about the subject of the LGBTQ plus community, we're also talking about people who the T for trans community. And we're hearing more and more and more that young children are identifying as not feeling who they are authentically, and they feel that there's a different sex. So just think about that. Let's see. That conversation was curious about Perk's parents who happened to be both female. Okay. Pierce's parents who both happen to be female. Okay. Transparency moment. I honestly don't want to teach them the subject, even though I understand it is important. Okay. So let me process that. So Jasmine is saying, in true transparency, she does not want to teach them the subject, even though she understands the importance of it. Okay. I appreciate the honesty. Let's be honest here. That led to the detailed conversation about how families look different because we are all different. Some families are biological and some are formed through foster care or adoption, etc. Yes. And the funny thing is, when you bring in the element of family and what family looks like as it relates to this community, that's good that we're paying attention to that. But what if members of the family don't even know how to identify themselves within that family? Ponder that one. Hello, Dawn. Welcome to the conversation. If you have not, make sure you click the like button. That is your key to the conversation. But thank you so much. We got 6 likes and one of them is me. So we got 5 and we got 9 people watching. Anyway, let's go. Lakeisha, I'm very honest. I'm sorry. Very hard conversation, but necessary. Very true. I would rather teach my girls rather than having someone else do so. Yes. Thank you. I'm seeing the like buttons being clicked. That's right. That is your key to the conversation. So let's use it. You're here and I want to acknowledge you. Thank you so much. Again, yes, that makes sense. Miss Malave, one of my faves. Hello. So Miss Malave says, my 7-year-old great niece was in a commercial for the LG Federation, if I'm saying the right system, with 2 dads. And she explains to me how some people have 2 parents of the same sex, dads. Okay, got it. It is It was an opportunity for her mom to teach. Okay. Okay. It was an opportunity for her mom to teach. So I'm taking that was a good segue and introduction for mom to step into the position and teach. Okay. What are your keep going with the conversation? Got to keep reminding you guys that, but I want to make sure we don't lose the flow. I do not know if I would be as willing to go to the lengths D Wade this for his child. Okay, what do you mean? What lengths did D Wade go as it relates to his child? We could assume what you're talking about, but if you get an opportunity to just expound on that, Jasmine, much appreciated. Because this is a whole nother layer to this conversation, right? So we're not only talking about lesbian, women liking women, or bisexual. I have to remember all the acronyms. Bisexual or trans, but we're talking about trans. And then don't even ask me. I'm still learning. Pansexual. It's just so many. And again, I'm going to hold my comment because I have some views about this that I want to be transparent and honest too. And I am open. I am open to someone sharing with me and us all here in the conversation. Well, wait a minute. Why should we be looking at this way opposed to that way, or not that way, but this way? So I'm very much curious. Aha! Raising my son as a female at that age. In my personal opinion, Zaya is too young to have gender reassignment. Okay, now, not to say we wasn't getting honest, but we're being honest here because we have to think about this. I think a way of putting us thinking about it is putting ourselves in the that position. What if it was you? And again, you don't have to what if, because I'm telling you that this book I just showed you is in schools, it's in libraries. Your children are exposed to other children who are talking about their two mommies and their two daddies. There are little boys who are going to school and identifying as little girls. There are little girls who are going to school and identifying as boys. Let's show another family here. Angelina Jolie and her. So this was a little bit more confusing as well because we remember this young child here actually dressing very masculine like a boy for a long time. And then maybe almost a year ago, I saw a photo of the same child now dressed in a dress, hair long, and not dressing like a little boy. Jasmine, gender reassignment wouldn't even be an option on the table. Okay. Lakeisha, just my opinion, but I do not live in their household. Thus, I do not have an emotional attachment. Oh, key word, an emotional attachment. That's another way of looking at it. And it shouldn't be translated as I'm homophobic, since I do not agree with that. Jasmine, do you think that because you do not agree with it, do you think that you will be deemed as homophobic just to individuals? I'm curious of what your thoughts are. The problem is that children nowadays are exposed to things too early in life. You can't turn on the TV without seeing something about the same-sex relationship. I have a son that is just lost. So, Christopher, you retracted your comment, and I respect that. So I didn't get a chance to finish reading it, but okay. Thank you for sharing anyway. I really appreciate it. Jasmine shouldn't. Okay, Lakeisha's asking Jasmine, shouldn't, but too many, it would definitely would. Okay, agree, Christopher. Okay, so let's show. Okay, so what I did was I wanted to get a. We all know these celebrities, right? They're always in our face in one form or fashion. So I wanted to reference the celebrities so that we can see a picture of what this looks like. And then again, like I stated, we end up talking about a family who has a trans daughter. And what that means is that Dwayne Wade's biological son is now identifying as a trans female. I do not believe Zeta has had a sex reassignment, but the way the family talk about this very topic, it does not appear that it's going to be something that they would be against. And if I'm not mistaken, Zeta is also on hormone therapy, which is helping her produce more female hormones than male hormones. Just do your homework, people. Okay. Then we also reference here Angelina Jolie's child, because I want to be respectful. And that child was once dressing, as you can see, which looked like very boyish. And I tell you, I recently saw her much older in a full dress, hair long. And I want to go over to a well-known celebrity. And this celebrity is Cher. And Cher has a transgender son. And we're going to be respectful right here. Transgender son, Chaz Bono, who was born a female and had gender reassignment. And if I'm mistaken, anyone can drop a line and just correct me. But if I'm not mistaken, has had gender reassignment. Okay? So before I move on to the next one, let's just see what Christopher says. The problem is that children nowadays are exposed to things too early in life. You cannot turn on TV without seeing something about sex relationships. I have a son. You have a son that... We'll wait for the next part of that. So here's Chaz Bono. And Chaz lived as a man. As a man. Now let me show you this one. Here's another one. This is Magic Johnson's son, E.J. Johnson, who dresses as in female attire. But I do not believe E.J. identifies as trans. So I wonder if it's queer. I'm not sure. But this is what we're talking about. Now, all of these individuals I showed you started their transition and or their identifying gender young. I think Chaz was later on. I stand corrected. Chaz Bono was later on. Because at some point research says, or my research says, that Chaz was living as a woman, a lesbian woman, and then that was not who Chaz really felt that he was. So he decided to commit to who he identified as, and that was a man, and therefore he moved on with the sex that he prefers. Latifa, I think gender reassignment is great for an adult. Okay, but these folks trying to reverse children as young as 9. Even some laws that are leaving birth certificate open for parents. Wow, I didn't know that part. Thank you for sharing that, Latifa. I didn't know that there was some laws that allow parents to leave the birth certificate as it relates to sex open. That's interesting. See, we learn something. When we're talking to each other, we're learning something all the time. All the time. All the time, we're learning. Very dangerous. Agreed. What are we? Hmm. Here's the thing. What? Mm, let me pause that that question because I think that's probably going to shake the table. But all of us know somebody. Well, here's the thing. I don't know. Well, let me finish that statement. All of us know someone who is part of the community. What I don't know is a young child who is identifying as a different sex. I don't know that. I do know that some little boys um, have feminine ways, and I know that there's some little girls who have little tomboyish ways. Um, hmm. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm really going to. I know I'm looking like just say it, but I I want to really just get people to just say what they think, what they feel. I mean, I knew I love men in elementary school. Why should it be different for people? That's a good comment. If you know when you were in elementary school that you were attracted to a sex, and for the most part, the way some of these conversations are flowing, the opposite of sex, why do we believe that that's not the same for children today? This or not. This is not about love, Jasmine. It's much deeper. But Lakeisha, do children know the difference of love at that age? I can hear right now many children say, "I love you." At least when I was a kid. And listen, in the work I do, I hear children say that are young. They're hugging. Children have no barrier, right? Children don't have barriers to things that we as adults have barriers. We shape them into having barriers. We mold them into who we want them to be. We require them to act a certain way according to what our standards are. That's why we have racism in the world today, because children are shaped and molded into being that. They don't grow come into the world being racist. But with that being said, do children come into this world? Are they born into this world with the internal mental thought capacity, the way the mind works, that the body that they're born in is not what they do not see themselves as that gender? And should the school be teaching your children that your little boy who is 5 years old, he comes to school, he plays with dolls, he doesn't want to play with the boys, he's not roughhousing, he doesn't want you to call him a little boy, he wants you to call him a little girl. Is something wrong with that child mentally? Because there's people that's telling us that anyone identifying other than the gender they were born, and for the definition, gender is the body parts that you were born with. Gender is not a mind. Listen, let me tell you something. I really was preparing myself for this conversation, right? And not as an expert, someone who can just have the conversation. I knew I was and I wanted to be a female in elementary school. If gender is the subject, maybe not, but then the same would apply to knowing your sex and this identity. I don't know. Nothing's wrong with the child. Nothing's wrong with the child at all. But there is also nothing wrong with the child if the child decides to continue to know the gender that is physical. See, okay. So, Jasmine, you're saying there's nothing wrong with the child at all, but there is also nothing wrong with the child if my child decides to continue to call them gender that is the physical to see. Jasmine, so let me ask you a question. Are you saying that if your son or daughters see a child who has been identified as a little girl, but the little girl wants to be called a boy, what would you have your child call that child, or your children call that child? There's a universal law that people of the same sex are not meant to be together sexually. Someone being attracted to the same sex is just that, an attraction. You choose to act on that. Oh. And thank you for sharing that, Christopher. Some people would disagree with you that you don't choose, you just be. See how deep this conversation can get? And we're not going to get to the deeper layers of this conversation today. We're just not going to do it. But I knew for sure, without a doubt, I wanted to introduce this conversation into the equation because we should be talking about this. Your children, nieces, nephews, cousins, people are walking into this big place called the world, space, communities, environments, and they are questioning other people's sexual identity or how that person wants to be identified. And many of them in secret probably are questioning themselves. Now, I'm not saying that any of your children in this conversation is questioning themselves, but I'm going to say to you that there are children that are. I'm sorry, Christopher, you're asking why not. Is it something you're asking me or someone else in the conversation? Let's be very clear. This is a serious topic. And as long as people have the right to vote, and everyone should have the right to vote for what is important for them and their family, we're going to see more and more of this. This is just, I think, the beginning. This is the tip of the beginning of how this movement is moving. Lakeisha, disrespect towards someone because you lack understanding and possible fear is unacceptable. Yes, but many people walk in that space, Lakeisha, because they fear it, they don't understand it, they avoid it. I was watching a show. Oh my goodness. I was watching a show, and the show was, I know Rob told me about this show. Rob, do you know what show you told me about where there was a young man who was a performer in the drag show? And speaking of drag, what are your thoughts about your children watching or a drag a person who performs? I hope I'm saying it right. A person who performs as a female entertainer or male entertainer provide a show. Provide a show as a drag queen. So I was watching the show where this individual was an adult. He was performing in a drag show, and he leaves the show, walks out. He's leaving work. He's still dressed in his gear, his work outfit, because he was still dressed in drag. And he was approached by a whole bunch of white men. They were, making fun of him, threatening him. And then they all left except one. Excuse me. And the one person looking behind the show to make sure all his buddies are gone goes up to this drag queen and has a conversation. Behold, the individual Thank you. The accuser. The accused. So let me stop there. If you get a chance, watch this show called The Accused. And again, it's many different scenarios, different stories. But this one I'm talking about was one that was very interesting. And I can see how some of this thing comes up because it talked about the individual. He talked about when he was a kid, his brother would really tease him, beat him up, all those kind of different things because of his attraction to, I don't think it was drag queens. Maybe I don't know. You have to watch it for yourself. But this is why this conversation is important because children that we're talking about, your children, other children, will grow up in an environment and very much confused because if the schools cannot teach your children about this very topic, and you refuse to teach your children about this very topic, in the middle, you have children who do not know about this topic. Therefore, they're left to their own demise. Therefore, you have other people manipulating their mind, whether it be people from the community, whether it be other children, whether it be other adults. Someone is going to shape the very thing that you are unwilling or do not know how to shape. And I believe that, I will say this, I will share my thought that I believe there's a way of having this conversation in a way that's healthy, but does not brainwash children or keep them from knowing what's really happening in life. I know that there's some people from this show, that visit the show here, that are from the Christian faith. I'm curious to what they think. Without, and you know what, I'm stumbling over my words because I do understand that if you say, let's have this conversation without you beating me down about what the Bible says, then people think that, well, how can you, that's the problem. We're having all these conversations without God in it. That's not what this is. This is not about having a conversation without God in it. For me, God is in everything. But I think we need to have the conversation without making people feel guilty or bad about having the conversation so that we can then later on, if it's necessary, and I believe maybe it is or not, to bring that layer into spiritually of how the person or that child feels. So I'm hoping that people can just keep an open mind, be respectful to the topic, and share with us, what do you think? Lakeisha said that's entertainment. Lakeisha, are you saying that's entertainment about the accused, which is what I was talking about? And then Jasmine says, we live for Halloween in my house. Not to compare the movement to Halloween, but I have no issues my kids seeing a show where people are in costumes. Well, Jasmine, Halloween costumes is totally different than I think the LGBTQ plus community would say as it relates to drag queens or drag queens working. But if I'm wrong about what you're referencing, then just let me know. Lakeisha goes on to say, if this topic can be taught in school, I believe that prayer should be also allowed back into. I will agree, Lakeisha. I think prayer needs to be in school anyway, even if this topic was not in school. But prayer and using God's name, I think that's something that should be allowed in school, that we should not be told we cannot talk about that. Okay. But I agree with you. Lakeisha says, a believer will not be able to do that, Diamond. A believer would not be able to do that, Diamond, which is what I know what Lakeisha's talking about. She's talking about the question I asked about those who are followers of Christ, believe in God. That's a hard one, a heavy one, and deep. Okay. Lakeisha said, for many people, the conversation cannot work without entitling the Bible or biblical principle. Okay. I see where you're coming from. Yes. Thank you for clarifying, Lakeisha. Look, this was a very interesting conversation. It was very interesting, and I believe that okay, got it. I will be having a follow up to this very topic. I am hoping that every one of you who came in today, all of you, will click the share button. I know some people are fasting. They're fasting from social media. But this show is up on my platform. I'm hoping that each and every one of you will, I'm a devout Christian, but I also believe in John 3:15. We all sin equally. Oh, well, come on, Miss Cross. Miss Malave says, you're right. Your rights end where minds begin. We can make personal choices and worship what religion we will, respecting others. The truth. Okay. Lakeisha, we sin equally and we should not judge. Yes. See, look at there. Look at there. However, Zeta, Chaz Bono, EJ, Angelina Jolie's child, and many people in our very own community are very much being judged, shunned by the churches because they do not understand, they refuse to understand, and they stand on the principle of the Christian teaching. But we will explore this conversation on a deep. Oh, one more. I don't think we should bring the Bible into this because sin is sin. If you ain't living like Jesus, then. Oh, okay. Well, Christopher. Yes, Naomi, because respect has nothing to do with religion and religion. Correct. I so appreciate each and every one of you. I knew this was going to be a good topic, and not for ratings. It was a good topic because we need to be talking about it. So just please be a subscriber to the channel. Make sure you click the notification bell. If you're not getting notifications, click the notification bell again and click all notifications so that you are notified when the show is live and posting. Please click the share button because this conversation is very much needed and we should be talking about it and ongoing. I will be bringing a part 2 to this conversation. I'm looking to have representatives from the community as well as someone who is knowledgeable about the schools or teaching and those sorts so that we can have another layer of this conversation. So the only way you're going to know how to be involved is that you're subscribed. All right. I truly appreciate you guys. You guys showed up, and I'm happy. I'm very, very happy. Thank you so much for being a part of the process. Okay, my friends, it's been good. Let me leave you with this. Don't waste a minute not being unhappy. For a minute to come may never come. So it's your responsibility to be happy in the moment. Much love. Can't wait to see you guys next week. And thank you so much for being such a great audience. Much love, peace, and hair grace. All right, people. Bye. Good night.